We'll now, jump into the fireside chat. Well, we'll have quite a few panelists joining from various organizations who've presented so far. And just to set the tone for the fireside, it's about figuring out how you can power up your execution, how you can power up your programs, your initiative by using these building blocks. To share your questions you might have, also to zoom out a bit, go behind the scenes and see how did all this really happen? Like how did some 3, 4 different various organizations working in education come together to create these building blocks, which anyone can leverage, and they can leverage not just for education, but these building blocks are available for anything beyond education, and in fact, anything beyond India. So, how this is truly made in India, but built for the world. Let's explore some of those aspects in the fireside chat. I have with me Akshay, Preetham, and Karn from Avanti Fellows, Ayush, Rahul, and Supreet from Samagra Governance, Aishwarya, Neeraj, and Vijayshri from Shiksha Lokam to share the story behind the scenes, to answer some of the pertinent questions you have been asking on the chat. The chat has been buzzing with questions, and I'm quite excited about how people are thinking, how it has sparked imagination. And some of our panelists have been trying to answer those questions already through the chat itself. So let's get started. As I wait for everyone to come on the virtual stage, as the Accept team helps me do that. I'm just recalling some of the, as Deepika mentioned at the beginning, right, that some of these engagements are as early as 2017. We've been working together, collaborating with each other, experimenting on some of these open source tech from long back. And at the same time, some of us have started collaborating recently, but have made great progress, have taken large strides in how some of these building blocks have come alive in just under 3 months. So towards that, one of the stories that I recall is that of talking to Supreet and Saket from Samagra sometime last year in November, December, when I just got a message from a friend saying, hey, you have been doing something with the question bank. I'm curious to know what that is. And I was very surprised that someone even knows about what I was even doing at that time, because we hadn't yet started talking about Sunbird. We hadn't done this series of webinars, which started around Christmas in last year. And from there, as we collaborated, as we co-created an imagination of how this can truly solve problems, what Ayush walked us through, right? How it can make ease of creation, make it data rich, capture granular data, so that in future it can truly personalize and of course enable identifying of learning gaps and all. So my question for that to the Samagra team is, if you think of when we started and where we are today, what change did you observe, or how do you think our thinking together changed? How did we build that muscle of collaborating together, of course, through the ups and downs of it? I just want to hear some stories and some behind the scenes from you.
Sure. Let me give you some flavor of that, Suren. Thanks for organizing this, first of all, and for inviting us and making us part of the Sunbird family. In terms of thought process of how to contribute to national good, public good, how to actually further education, if you think about technology, you always start thinking, okay, can I leverage something that already exists? Can it be used at scale? Where will it be hosted? These are some of the questions that come to mind. And while every state thinks of creating their own thing, hopefully people are moving towards appreciating open source software and the fact that it's already there. But there's this other thing of having it on a national platform such that it's not just usable for your own state, but for all the states put together. And that is a kind of thought process from a system design point of view which have seen change, definitely for us, but also for everyone. At Samagra, we've always been proponents of open source, trying to figure out what open source blocks can be put together to weave together a complete solution for a state. But as we started working with Sunbird, we also realized this solution design is not just for a state. This solution design is for the nation, for multiple states. So when it comes to what kind of feature set will be useful, not just for that launch that needs to happen in the next month for one state, but what would be a really powerful feature set that would help the end user, the student, the teacher, nationally, wherever it goes across states, which means how does localization get taken care of? How does hosting get taken care of? The fact that Sunbird, a large part of it is on Diksha, hosted on Diksha, what that magically makes scale happen without any effort from the state's part. I think that's been a huge a difference in terms of state needing to provision those servers, manage DevOps, and all the things there. The other part in terms of thinking has been in terms of standardization, whether it's in terms of taxonomy, in terms of content, users, and so on. This triangulation of competence matrix coupled with users, coupled with content, actually gives you a great view in terms of what is the state of learning for a particular student in a particular region. And it especially has become true for in the COVID times, because you have no clue what's happening with the student. Did he or she actually look at that content? How did they understand double digit addition? What is their competence level? Yes, you may have them in 4th grade, but are they really at a competence level of 2nd grade, or are they really competent at 4th grade? So Diksha telemetry, a lot of components of Diksha, while we always talk about the front facing features of Sunbird and Diksha, there is a whole backend scenes in terms of data exhaust that Diksha has, in terms of the standards that Sunbird provides. And so that has been another change in thought process, in mindset, which is adherence to standards. So I think those are some of the things in terms of implementation, solution designing, taxonomy, data standardization, and actually making it useful for all states. These have been dramatic changes in thought process that I've seen not just with us, but everyone in the ecosystem, I'm sure.
Yeah, thanks very much for laying it out so well that at the top we have applications through a platform which is scalable, scale ready, provides multiple functionalities. At the bottom of it, we have the basic microservices APIs, and then you have your standards which truly allow interoperability. Like how we can all communicate with each other through these common standards. We might not even realize some of that. So thank you for doing that. And I think as I think of it, I'm trying to contrast it with the story that I have from Avanti, where I'm trying to see how their journey has been. Where so my connect with that is, one day on LinkedIn I saw a post from someone at Avanti, Aman to be precise, a post which said, "We can increase your learning engagement by 5x. Here is what we have built. Check it out." And as I saw that, I was like, oh, wow, people have built something open source. I must reach out to them and figure out how it works. How can we contribute? So I send a message internally on our teams and say, okay, folks, we should get in touch. And well, I shouldn't be surprised, but I was surprised to find that we were already talking and we were in the early days of talking, right? So someone in the leadership told me that, yes, we've been talking to them and it's soon going to come. Now, since you reached out, you put up your hand, this will come to you. And you will make it happen working with them. And that's how my journey with Avanti started, where something I was curious about turned into an active collaboration, something that we could leverage. And in a short span of time, they'll be rolling out the interactive video capability through Sunbird to Diksha. So, to the Avanti team, the same question, that what was your journey like? What changes did you observe?
I'll let Preetham answer that, actually, because he spent the most of the time working on that, on the contribution.
Like, it was it was a interesting journey, because we are a really small team. Like, when we started with Sunbird, we had only 3 people, and well, now also we have 3, but a different 3, and just getting to this big scale of getting to work on something where if we integrate a tool into Sunbird, it launches immediately for millions of kids. It was great. And the Sunbird team was at all times was really helpful. Railu, Suren, they held our hands through the first 3 months of the process and showed us the guidelines, how to commit, because the processes at Avanti Fellows are nowhere as comprehensive as those at Sunbird. And it was a great experience. And yeah, we're really happy that interactive video is making it into Sunbird, and we'll soon be able to reach many more kids than we would have if we hadn't gone through Sunbird. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, no, I think more than answering the question, I was just curious to know behind the scenes.
Yeah.
But thank you for all the good work. Akshay, go ahead.
Yeah, maybe I can talk a little bit about, I think, some of the things that Rahul just mentioned, right? I think there is a material difference between how we built. So we've actually, in this particular case, built the tool twice, right? So we first kind of just built it standalone for ourselves. I mean, as an standalone open source tool. I think it talks a little bit to what Rahul said, right? So we've, I think, gone through that same journey in a very micro way. And then contributing it to Sunbird was a learning curve, right? And I think it's useful to talk about that in this forum as well, right? It's not as straightforward as throw up something on Lambda and then it'll start working. It's much easier to just do it standalone, right? In some ways. But I think it's taken us some time, even internally, to fully digest that trade-off, right? Which is, there's a certain way in which you can do it very quick and dirty, but then you don't get the benefits of the DevOps, the standardization, the scale, right? And I think for many people who'd consider contributing, I think that's something to come into with eyes open, right? That there is a material investment needed to be able to do this properly, right? And I think it took us, probably 2 or 3 months to get this right, figure it out. And I know we were on multiple calls on, process changes, how we do it, what the developers need to know. But I think, and Preetham and Karan can talk to this more, but I think once you get it done the first time, it became a lot easier, right? But there is a 2-month, 2.5 months for us at least, bit of an adjustment learning curve, which I think it's important to acknowledge that there is, but you kind of have to go slow before you can go fast, right? And I think that's important to recognize, but it's definitely a worthwhile trade-off, right? It's more than a worthwhile trade-off. Because we know from other stuff that we've implemented, right? And again, to Rahul's point, that it's easy enough getting the product out. It's really hard keeping it alive, right? Because when it does start to scale, and then when DevOps starts to break, and we have other things, and especially when you're a small team, maintaining the product becomes, no matter how well you design it, becomes quite a big effort. And that, I think, is the biggest upside, right? That, once it's live, maybe it'll take us, 2 times as long, maybe, right? Hopefully not, but let's say even if it takes us twice as long to go live, in the long run, we don't have to worry about maintaining, right? In the same way as we would for a standalone tool. In addition to other things I mentioned, being able to use Personavi in conjunction, being able to use a question bank that's been contributed by other people. So the ecosystem benefits are tremendous, but even specifically to the tech, I think it's useful to think through that a little bit.
Yeah, I think, as I hear you speak that, what comes to my mind is when you enter a scalable functioning system, there is some bit of time required to adjust to that, some bit of effort required to work in a group in a collaborative manner, and to build that muscle where we can leverage each other's work. At the same time, while this is the payment, the trade-offs are also there where you can leverage much more than that. And I think it's the mindset of a sprint versus a marathon that I would see here, or like a well versus an ocean mindset, where by taking that effort, we're able to surf the waves in the ocean. And thank you for being patient, being with us here. All of us, I think, have had our own ups and downs. Yeah, thank you very much for sharing it.
Actually, if there's one more thing I might add, right? I think that the other kind of mindset thing, again, I'm saying this to the benefit of people, because we are early contributors now, right? I think for others who start to do this, I think the other mindset shift, and I think this is more from not being the person writing the code, right? That we've had to kind of work on is, there are some choices that exist, right? When you work with open source software and community contributed software, there are some choices that have been made. Are they going to be the most optimal, best choice that you would want to do? No. So that's the other adjustment, right? For the tech teams. I'm sure Ayush, Rahul, everyone has had to do that, right? Like there's just some choices that we've made now in the past. That was one. I think that the second, I think, which is perhaps more important, is I think it took us some time to come to this realization because we've never contributed to a community project before, which is if there's something that is causing a block, right, we actually can go fix it ourselves, right?
Yeah.
And that I think is a very powerful realization, right? Like, hey, most other things, like you work with other software, which is not open source and not community built, something's blocking you, you have to live with it. Here, you actually can go fix it. Yes, it will take time, but it's up to you to go fix it, right? And that's actually pretty cool. So yeah, just wanted to bring that up as well.
Yeah. I think thank you for bringing out some of these under the hood aspects. I just want to quickly jump to Shiksha Lokam just to maintain equity of time. Also, they have had a very contrasting bit where they have started using Sunbird as early as 2017 and built something, piloted in few states, and now contributing it back for the world at scale. So, anyone from Shiksha Lokam team, how has your journey been through this contributing back to Sunbird? Just want to hear some of the behind the scenes story from you. Aishwarya, Vijayashree, Neeraj, who will be, or any of you could.
Yeah. Thanks, Suren. I'll go. Yeah. For us, yes, we started off building with Sunbird, as you said, using the Sunbird infra as our own microservices, and then bringing it on to, part of the Sunbird platform itself was quite a, I would say, given the infrastructure that the architecture that Sunbird has, as Rahul and Akshay pointed out earlier, it comes, the entire infrastructure, the non-functional aspects of it, you don't have to worry at all about scalability, about security, or about, reliability aspects. So it's about, so the team can actually concentrate on building the microservice, which is, which you can, and then put it onto the platform without having to spend extra time or effort onto the other aspects, which typically in any development environment, you would be working on all those. Here it comes inbuilt. And that is one aspect. And also about, the very important factor here is about the layered architecture it provides. At all the layers, we have the ability to basically plug in, use the building blocks that are there to leverage to what extent we need. So for us, it was picking up our microservices, which were there, enabling it onto the Sunbird platform and moving on from there. So we were able to actually concentrate more on bringing in the functionality aspects and what we needed to do actually for our, end users rather than on the infrastructure. That was a big plus. And the additional dimension for us was actually Sunbird already had a microservice of Learn, and ours was about, as we had earlier through the deck when we went through our concept is about sense, make sense, then learn and improve. So the learn component automatically comes in. So it was even on the non-technical aspect, it was an easy fit for us to be able to leverage on what is already there as a microservice that's on the Sunbird. So, and on the data analytics side, the capabilities that it provides. So it was for us to go and actually use what is there in terms of enabling the dashboards. The infra is there. The the backend infra to extract the data through telemetry, and essentially the platform itself provides for volumes. So we just what we needed specific in terms of the dashboard, CSVs, whatever it is, it's about extracting it and enabling it to our needs. So that was the big plus, and that's how our journey, has been. Yes, when anybody, one point I would also like to say is there is, I think, very important when you look at the platform, like Sunbird platform, for technical people, techies, especially when they move from product development to this, something like an open source societal platform, there is a learning which is there that they have to think big on the societal aspect and not just about the product aspect, right? Typically when you're coming from that, so there is a learning curve. There is a learning which not to be forgotten, we need to go through that. Essentially anybody. So then you can think on the bigger scale at where we need to go and this is being what it is, a societal platform, what are the aspects that we need to dwell on? Many a time there might be why this overhead, right? But I think it's not to be forgotten. The mindset has to change, the paradigm shift from developing onto a societal platform has to come in when you start contributing. That is, for us, it's been, it's a huge learning, and it's been a very joyful learning too, because, you know, when you're looking at a platform of such a scale and then you see the difference, and certain things are taken and automatically handled, like Rahul mentioned, you go there and then you don't have to worry about the scaling aspect. You enable your microservices, things fall into place as long as you've got your interfaces, API, the integration's fine. It all falls into place. That's a huge plus.
Right. So yeah, I think thanks, Sujashri. Just being a bit mindful of the time here that we have. At the same time, the excitement that's brewing in the chat. I'm seeing a lot of things here. So I want to take one question head on that's coming from the chat, which is how can people reach out to anyone in the panel today from the people who presented and know more about Sunbird? I will answer on behalf of everyone here, but please feel free to add if you have anything else. On the Sunbird website, which is sunbird.org, if you go to community menu there, you will find a link to the open source community, which you know, is hosted, where all of us are participants there. Much of our conversations are up there from the early days when we started talking, and it's a very thriving, vibrant community forum. So feel free to reach out to any one of us on the sunbird.org/community. You will reach to a GitHub forum where you'll have to sign up, etc. Now, there are a few specific questions to individual teams, and I want to keep this more like a quick fire round. So please take about just 10, 20, 30 seconds to answer some of those. So one of it here is, can we create custom views on dashboard? I remember this came when Prateek was presenting the last slide around dashboard. So Aishwarya or anyone from Shiksha Lokam team, if you want to answer that quickly.
So I think when we talk about data, when we talk about dashboards, it's very important to see that what is the, what value addition will the data give to the stakeholder, give to the state. And so it's very important to see that, it's more generic that is given to the state, so that the decisions that they take are more informed, and the data help them to take necessary steps of how they are going to plan their future implementation. So I would say that rather than calling it as like a customized dashboard, I would say that we look more into the data that will empower the state in general and will help them take more informed decisions rather than making it very specific and very customized for the states. Yeah.
Yeah, so I think thanks, Aishwarya, for that, to just bring out the value that data is for empowering decisions and actions. But at the same time, I think the answer is that yes, we can create custom dashboards if anyone needs. The dashboard component itself is quite configurable. A quick question for someone from Samagra team, which is, how do I, are the question papers encrypted and do they support watermarking? I believe this is coming from someone who is looking at very stringent exams, maybe. So please, Rahul, anyone wants to take it? Ayush?
Yeah, sure. Currently, I think the way this is handled is that we have, first of all questions are to be reviewed by someone. So it is before it's made public, it's reviewed by a particular user. And second, we have validity time period. So we do have a start date and end date beyond which the question will not be visible to anyone. But when it comes to encryption and watermarking, I think that's there in the roadmap, and Suren, you can add probably, but has to be enabled in future.
Yeah. So I think my understanding is that the current use cases do not require us to encrypt or do watermarking. But at the same time, in future, if someone was to leverage this and extend it, it's very much possible. Use cases which require watermarking, encryption, or even what we call as proctored assessment. So those are possible on top of the building blocks that already exist. So yeah, thanks, Ayush, for answering that. I believe another question for you was, how do we see people answering questions in a vernacular language? How will we enable people to respond in Hindi or Tamil, Telugu, any of the other Indian languages?
Yeah, so currently what happens is that the question paper itself can be created in multiple languages. So we do have questions in Hindi, but unfortunately the input side of it, that is not currently, that right now doesn't support Hindi, but can be enabled in future again. Like mentioned, the Sunbird platform itself is configured in a way that that can be built on top of what exists. Currently, it's only either numbers, or if it's, let's say, a text description, that can be added in any language. So basis the question type, basically language can be handled. But let's say for specific questions where language input is required in a specific language, that I believe will be added in the roadmap going forward.
Just want to take a few more seconds on this. I know Akshay and Preetham have also been playing around with question banks for a long time in their use cases. So any insights or any ideas you have on that? How can we allow people to answer in their language?
So I think one thing we did in the past, I think, is to have multiple translations of the same question stored, right? That's one approach, right? But I think I'm not trying to fully understand the question, because if the question is posed in, is it the display of the question, or for the question to be translated?
Response, like how can a child type in an answer, say to a fill in the blank in a in some Indian language?
Yeah, so I mean, one answer is to basically store multiple translations of the same question and the answer options, which we've done in the past. It's not a use case we've seen, to be honest, where the question is posed in one language and the answer is in another. But that's also because of the specific context in which we work. But that could be one way. But yeah, maybe the people posing it can try and pilot something and contribute it.
Yeah, that's right. I think the power of having a community-built software is that anyone has the agency to solve. I just want to share some of my experience of being. Oh, sorry, Rahul. Did you want to share something? You seem to have unmuted.
Yeah, I just wanted to add. Do check out Anuvad and Vakyansh. These are two additional projects, again from the Sunbird umbrella, part of the AI team, that enable transliteration and voice recognition. So, multiple ways of inputting language and consuming language. So in terms of the consumption side, it doesn't matter what language you are in, as long as it gets translated into the language that you want to see it in. So that's the consumption. The alternative, the old school ways, of course, create localization strings per language, but and that Sunbird supports natively. But in terms of actually being able to auto translate, that's a possibility now. The other thing is in terms of actually inputting a text. So input, of course, on a mobile device, if we can make voice enabled, and you'd be surprised, just check out some of the Anuvad Vakyansh demos. Hindi voice recognition is really powerful. And all of this is open source, part of the Sunbird umbrella. So that's another way of putting in input. Of course, there are a variety of, Hindi or all kinds of input keyboards types, or even input transliteration tools that also can be used for input. So on both sides of the story, there's a lot of action happening there. Just check out some of these repos, you'll get good info.
Yeah, I think thanks. I just want to do a +1 to that. My thoughts on this that were same. What we have already tried in Sunbird is allowing people to type in their language, and some of these things are natively available on Android, iOS, where you can type in different languages. At the same time, building blocks like Vakyansh will help you speak something and get it transcribed. So what you say will get typed. If you sort of build on top of it, leverage that building block, connect these two, and you'll be able to solve that. I think one last question, which I'll take up and answer here for everyone's benefit, is how can I access Sandbox? Where do I access the environment? Want to answer on behalf of all of us, which is, there is a Sandbox available on the Sunbird website. You can go there and request access to it. You'll be able to play around with it. Now I want to switch gears from the participant questions back to some of the questions I have for you, which I was wondering as I was hearing the presentation, that as you as an individual, as you heard other presentations, what thoughts did it trigger for you, and where do you think you can leverage it? Through this, I'm trying to draw connections as to how some of these have been working more individually, independently, but now on this forum we are coming together to present it. So I want to explore the collaborations, the interconnections, and the ability to leverage each other's work in this forum. So if anyone has thoughts on, as you were hearing others present, what you think you could leverage from their work. Sukhpreet, do you want to go? You seem to have unmuted.
Yeah. No, so thanks, Suren. And this is a very good question. And I think that this is a question that we all independently, when we've been discussing, with Shiksha Lokam and Avanti, multiple, like our own imagination on what are the potential use cases has increased thanks to these discussions. So I'll just call out two things. One is that we see, the part that Avanti is adding, the quizzes being embedded on top of videos, that's a powerful construct when we start moving towards personalization. So we do see that being used a lot more, and we do want to see how we can start using that in distributing content. So, and just putting a larger context here, with this entire NDR coming in, the fact that multiple ecosystem partners can create content, multiple ecosystem partners can also start adding content onto for example the Sunbird instance on Ed. Then the idea would be that how do we start using not just question sets, but also start using the video and Plio that Avanti started. So this is a one that we are having discussions about and seeing how best we can use it on the ground, because it's a very powerful construct. The other, I think, on Shiksha Lokam's point, the work with the administrators is very useful. We work on the ground with administrators as well, and what we've seen is often there are different applications that use questions or have questions that are being used by school monitoring officials or school mentoring officials, or even by teachers themselves. So the idea is, how do we sort of leverage what they have in a more sustainable way across different applications, given that there are APIs that Sunbird can use, and then use the telemetry data to actually provide recommendations, right, back to officials to say, if this is this, then you can support here, or you can ask this question. So to make it much more personalized and not something where you feel that you're going to do an activity of check the tick box and come back. So these are two areas that we are thinking of. But that said, just want to call out that these are just 2 points that I'm highlighting now. But there are a lot of areas that we are already discussing and seeing, that lead to a lot of transformation in the education space, especially with this entire communication piece on WhatsApp and how we can leverage that and make it more powerful with the stakeholders. So yeah, I think these are the 2 points I want to call out. But yeah, lots more areas, and hope that we can continue discussing this on our community GitHub that we have, that Sunbird has.
Yeah, thanks, Sukhpreet. Anyone else from Avanti or Shiksha Lokam would like to add that as you were hearing these presentations, did it spark any imagination or thought for you? Yes, Neeraj?
Yes, I think just adding on to what Sukhpreet was talking about, while yes, we did, I could see definite fits into our theory of change in the specific components and capabilities that both Avanti and Samagra talked about, be it the bot, the chat bot, or even let's say the interactive video. They kind of connect to the conversation that we have been having with stakeholders, which is all about enabling more and more interactions, enabling more retention, enabling more activity on the platform. But also on a high level, I was thinking how we've talked so much about collaborative environment being set up for technology. It's also an amazing time to really scope beyond education and see what else and how else can things come beyond it. And so for me, I feel like it's such a perfect time to really catalyze and accelerate more innovation on Sunbird and bring in more people and really kind of create that environment. While we are at it, I definitely feel we are at this accelerated point. And given the work there is, given the the investment to education there is, given how innovation in education is taking an accelerated effort, it's an amazing time to really see how else can we collaborate, what else can really happen. So while there are those specific capabilities that I can always think of, talking to and reaching out to, this larger idea of accelerated innovation on Sunbird and how that could look like, I feel like there's so much that can happen there.
So, I think, and just another aspect here, I think on the collaboration, right? I think reality of this is also that we're already collaborating quite actively in states, right? And I think it's an interesting lens, and at least in my head, right, which is that actually in many ways this is an extension of existing collaboration. So Samagra and Avanti already work very closely together in multiple states, right? But more from a programmatic lens in the past, right, where we've been working on the content or on curricular pieces or teacher training in larger state transformation programs that Samagra has been doing, right? In Haryana, in Himachal, multiple other states. So in many ways, I think this collaboration on the Sunbird side is a extension / mirror of that, right? So I also think so for us, I think in many ways, because we are so downstream, right, at the student learning interaction level, for any of that to happen, many of the other elements that, for instance, both Shiksha Lokam and Samagra are implementing have to happen, right? It's very difficult to get any notion of personalized, consistent learning at the child level to happen unless the stakeholders in the school are engaged, unless they are using tech properly, unless there's data coming up to the to governance level. So in many ways, I think this plus I think many more other contributions will have to come together as a cohesive whatever you want to call it, right? The ERP system for the state, ERP / LMS / whatever system, tech system for the state, for our end goal to actually even happen, right? So for me, it's critical. I think it's not only like can we see collaborations, I think we will have to. Otherwise, very little of what we really want to get done will happen.
Yeah, I think thanks for bringing the spotlight on. We must join our hands together to solve this problem at scale. It's not one organization or one person's work to be able to move the system which has been there for so long. So it requires nudges at different levels, in different ways, from different people, and leveraging expertise from each other to move that system around. Towards the closure of this today's session, as we are running short of time, I just want to now open up with one last question, which is, what needs do you see emerging from the ground, for which solutions can be built using the building blocks you have already developed, or for which solutions can be built which are required, and an ecosystem can participate and contribute towards that. So the question primarily is, what needs do you see emerging from the ground? What lies ahead in the future? And that sort of also takes us closer to the closing of today's webinar.
Suryan, if I can go first. So like in Shiksha Lokam work, the need that we've seen that is strongly emerging from the ground is that the need to connect. So like the stakeholders, there's a dire, eagerness for them to connect with each other and to also learn from each other. So they feel that if they can be provided some kind of, mentorship, that they have a mentor, as well as if they're able to share the knowledge that they already have with their peers. So it's like a whole journey of learning and learning and teaching together. So this is one need that we have seen has come out strongly from the field.
I'd like to pitch in here with insights from Samagra. So what we've seen at least come from the ground is a lot of a requirement for integration. So what's happening is currently a lot of parallel systems are cropping up. So we have, let's say, a state existing app. We also have, let's say, another app that's being rolled out by another agency, another firm. So what's happening is a lot of parallel systems are there in place. And as a result, the same user has to interface with all these parallel systems for this, let's say, for different use cases. What is required essentially is if we can have some sort of a plug and play model where users interact with only that one system, so that they don't have to train themselves on multiple systems and they don't end up getting confused. But if we can minimize that interface, just limit it to one interface per user, that will be helpful. And I think with that, a lot of time sensitivity is required. So we may take a lot of time while doing that, but I think users on the ground, every day that we waste at our end, that ends up becoming a huge issue, or let's say a huge failure at their end. So I think two things there. One, just simpler interfaces, singular interfaces for users, and then just being time sensitive about it.
Thanks, Alex, for sharing what do you think? Mark? Yeah, Akshay or anyone?
So just quickly sharing, I think 2 or 3 things. I think one, picking up from Aishwarya's point, I think this need for online communities is, I think, critical even at the student level, right? I think it's very clear that this creating a community of teachers and students, I think, is in all of the field research we've done, comes out as the biggest need. It's not personalization, it's not adaptive learning. It's like we want to feel connected as a learning community, right? We don't have great answers ourselves on how that might happen. So I think it requires a lot of folk to try to make that happen, right? So and that's one big need. And how do you get like actual thriving, similar to this community? How do you get communities of kids and teachers to actually start learning together, which is the next logical step in online learning for many of them, right? And for it to actually work. I think the second is similar to what Ayush said. I think this figuring out the clunkiness of multiple systems. I don't know, how we do that, right? But I think part of it is also coming up with a very cohesive narrative or educating the stakeholders on how product and tech works. I think that's a very big need, where I think the frameworks in people's minds on, what is the solution to my problem with technology are very warped and messy. And as that causes then some of this clunkiness, right? Ki iske liye bhi app bana do, uske liye bhi app bana do, 6 app khol lo, that kind of stuff. And I think from a start, the kids are actually the easiest to explain this stuff to. I think it's and as you go further up the value chain, it gets harder, at least in my experience, right? So how to bring like product systems, community-led thinking into the ecosystem, even though it has nothing to do with building tech and product, but I think this education piece, I think, is important.
Yeah, I think thanks, Akshay. And just to sort of add my thoughts on what I think, and just to build on what you said, that if I think of a parallel in the apps that I use, it's surprising that when I open Google Maps, it gives me a notification to book a cab using Ola or Uber. So surprisingly, while Ola, Uber, and Google are independent organizations, I still feel they are connected and they give me an integrated experience. Rather, at the same time, some of the systems that you mentioned seem so clunky and far apart from each other. So to create that integrated experience for the end user is there, and then to feel that connectedness while we are all separated and yet connected virtually. And third, I think I would just like to call out that while some of us are doing great work in our own spheres through our program, some of the core challenges today, getting kids back to school, making them feel safe, looking after their social and emotional aspects of learning that they missed out, and organizations who are working in that sphere, I think I would really like to invite them to collaborate with some of us and build solutions for their needs. With that remark, I would like to thank each one of you to take out time today, share your journey with us. Thank you very much.